Today, I want to talk about how to find a man when you're desperate. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. For the most part, we do a lot of mom content and we do homemaking, but I also love talking about culture and dating. Dating and relationships is a big one for me. I love talking about it because I think in today's modern era, we have a very sad perspective on dating where it is all about fun, but nobody's having any fun, especially women. And really most people feel really depressed about it because the truth is we are built to have long-term relationships and commitments. So to have these fleeting relationships, to date in a way that encourages that, and to hook up with no meaning is just really depressing. So today I really want to talk about how to find a guy when you're desperate. Now, some caveats on this phrase, okay? Being desperate sounds awful. I get that it's not a flattering phrase, but the truth is, it makes sense. We are desperate for something we really want, a love that will last a lifetime. And so I don't blame any woman for getting to a point of desperation with wanting to meet someone to spend her life with. I think that's mostly just a catchy title. Really, it's about how to find a guy when you are stressed about it because you want it so badly. And especially if you are a little bit older and you're feeling like time is starting to be against you, I think that there are certain things you can do to actually find someone, meet someone, and build a life with them. So I'm really excited. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's just get into it. Okay, let's just start with number one, which is focus on you and take some of the pressure off. So it makes sense that you really want to meet someone, but sometimes when we get too obsessive about trying to find that person, we can start to ourselves degrade over time because we're not focusing on growing. Now, when I say focus on yourself, I don't mean focus on yourself. It's all about you. That is obviously not what I mean. If you've watched any of my other content, you might know that. If you're new here, you might not. But when I say focus on yourself, I mean focus on your personal growth. Focus on how to be the best version of yourself. Focus on ways that you can enjoy your day-to-day and enjoy your life as a single person without making it impossible for another person to join you to come into that. Because I think a lot of the time what ends up happening is people get very comfortable and complacent being on their own, and then it's very hard to incorporate a whole new person into your life and make them work with your routine, and then you have to fit in with their routine. So you want to improve as a person, spend your time doing things that you won't get to do when you do find the right person, but also leave room for that new person to come into your life. And I think that you'll find that if you spend your time doing things that you love, reading, going to museums, going on dates with your friends, like doing fun things, then of course you'll still have that need and that want to be with someone, but it won't be as overwhelming because it's not the only thing you're focusing on. You are recognizing that there is a present to be lived in while also looking toward the future. And one of the things I do think is very important is when you are dating, you don't want to be so available that the person that you're going out with doesn't feel like you have a life, that they don't feel like you have something going on that makes you interesting. And so it is important to have hobbies. It is important to have prior engagements. Not every time a guy asks you out do you have to say that you're free at the exact time that he says. You can have a prior engagement and find another night that works for both of you. And I think that that's actually a very positive thing. So that is the first thing that I would recommend is when you're desperate to meet a guy, spend some time enjoying where you're at and improving yourself so that this time is well spent rather than feeling like, oh, I just wasted all this time until I met you. Number two is go on dating apps. Yes, I'm saying it. I know that there are a lot of people who discourage dating apps, but in today's day and age, it is very hard to meet people. And I know that sounds crazy because we have never been in a time where there are more people for us to meet, right? Think about 200 years ago. You knew the people in your town. And maybe if you went to the city, you might meet someone new. But like, you pretty much knew the people you knew. And so your choices were incredibly limited, but that was in many ways also a good thing because it meant that you kind of knew who you might end up with. Whereas now our horizons are so broad, literally the world is available to us, that there's no limitations. And so there's decision fatigue, and people are constantly looking for something better, and they're constantly questioning whether the person that they're with is really the right person because there are so many other options. It's very hard to actually meet someone that you can say, yes, this is the right person. And so dating apps are kind of a pretty important way to meet people in today's day and age. Now, I don't think that all dating apps are created equal. I think there are some that are geared towards hooking up and things that will not make you meet the right person that you can spend your life with. And then there are those that are actually really good for that. So I know a few people who have met their spouses on Hinge. I know for Jews, I've met some people who have actually met their spouses on JSwipe. I don't know a lot about like Christian Mingle or anything like that. I used Coffee Meets Bagel, but I don't know really how that's working these days. And I really liked Coffee Meets Bagel. I met some really nice people through there. But find apps that are not just swiping based on looks, and instead have another thing about them that makes them about the relationship that can form between two people. So like Coffee Meets Bagel, the idea was that you had mutual friends on Facebook, so you could reach out to your mutual friends and say, hey, do you know this person? Do you think they'd be a good fit for me? So it was like sort of vetting them before just going out with a stranger. And I've heard that Hinge is also great because it's encouraging people to actually get married and stay together. So I think it's really important to use apps if you're finding it hard to meet people. It's important to put yourself out there in any way that you can. And we are lucky enough to live in a time where we can use an app to meet someone, but obviously be judicious and use it in the best way possible. And if you need to take breaks from it every now and then, that's also fine, because I know that it can get overwhelming. But dating apps are not an evil if you use them wisely and judiciously. So download some dating apps, use them well, post good pictures that are not just like pictures that are pretty, but pictures that actually show what you look like, and be honest in the description, because you don't want somebody choosing you based off of things that are not honest. Like that wouldn't be very useful or a good use of your time. So that is recommendation number 2. The third thing that you can do when you are absolutely desperate to meet someone is ask your friends to set you up. Ask them. Now, usually I recommend asking the friends who you have who are married to set you up, because the ones who are single are also looking for people to date. So theoretically, it's a little more tricky because single women are not always friends with single men, right? Because that has too much sexual tension. That's not really I don't really believe that men and women can be friends without any sexual tension. Of course, there's more discussion to be had on that topic, but like as a blanket statement. But your married friends have a husband, and the husband might have a single friend who is good for you. So ask your married friends and maybe your single friends if they can work for that, or family members or people at church, wherever, to set you up and go on the dates. And I know it's like frustrating because a lot of the time they're blind dates and you don't know a lot about the person, but your friends know you well and they want you to be happy. Even your single friends. I will say, I think, you know your friends well enough to know whether or not your single friends are actually looking out for you, or whether they are also in a stressful situation where it would be hard for them to see you get married before they do. I think that's a hard one. But there are a lot of girls and a lot of single friends who can set each other up and be happy with it, but it doesn't always work that well. In any case, I'm getting bogged down in the details. Ask your friends to set you up and accept those dates. Your friends want you to be happy. They want you to meet somebody, especially your married friends, because then you can join the married crew. And it's a good way for you to know in advance that the people you're being set up with have been vetted by a friend. So I highly recommend actually asking, and you don't have to be embarrassed. Nobody would think that that's weird. It's important for you to actually stand up for what you want, right? And standing up for what you want means maybe doing something a little outside of your comfort zone, which is asking someone for help. So ask the people that you love and trust for help. Number 4, and this is a kind of a bigger investment, is visit friends outside of your area. So if you are not finding success where you live, if the people you are around are just not a good fit for you, are not a possible choice for you to marry, I actually think there's two parts of this, but we'll start with the simpler one first. Visit your friends who are out of your area. Visit your friends who are out of town. You can fly, you can drive, you can get to them however you think, but if they have a community of guys around who you might be able to meet, maybe your friend can host a party, you can meet some people who are open to dating a slightly more long distance or even just truly long distance, that's a good way to meet people. And so stay with your friends, visit your friends, and try and meet a new group that you have not met before. Now, the more extreme version of this, and I don't think this is crazy, even though some people might, is move to a new city. If you can get a job, and I'm not saying everyone can, but if you can get a job that is in a new place and you have a good feeling about it and you think you could meet some people, or you have friends there already and you think that they know some people for you, consider moving. If you've been in the same place for a long time and it's just not serving you and you are just not able to meet anyone new, you can't stay there forever. It would be very hard for you to meet someone new if you're just stuck. And I think that sometimes it's hard for us to make these big changes, obviously within the boundary of like, okay, I can support myself, I can find a place to live. But even outside of that, I think people just get a little bit bogged down in what they're used to. And sometimes it's important to say, I have to make a change so that I can meet someone new. And so, the mini version is visit your friends. Hopefully you'll meet someone who's open to long distance. Maybe you'll meet someone who's struck enough by you that they're willing to do that. My husband and I dated long distance, so I am not against it. But the bigger version is move away from where you are to find something new and be flexible and open to that being a possibility, because the only way to meet people is to meet people. Okay, last but not least, and I've made this suggestion before on my channel, but I really like it and I think that it works, is number 5, which is host your own party. And the way that you do this is host a party where you invite all of your friends and you tell them that they all need to bring a friend that you've never met before. So it is a themed party in a sense of bring new people into my life. And you can start this awesome trend of doing that like around your circle of friends. So you start it, you have your group of friends each bring a friend that you've never met, and you'll get to meet some new people, broaden your circle, broaden your network, and then maybe you ask your best friend to host a party and do the same thing where their friends have to bring people that your best friend hasn't met. And so over time, you start to broaden your network, broaden your circle, and theoretically, all these people are gonna mesh and get along because you're all friends with each other to start with. And then your friends have friends that share similar interests. And that's a really great way to meet someone new. And again, that vetting process is really helpful when you're trying to date. So I am a big proponent of making your own luck. You have to go out and search. You have to be the one who's open-hearted, open-minded to meeting new people and doesn't get too exhausted. And I get that it is exhausting and it's emotionally draining to date and not find the right person. But I think at the end of the day, you have to keep your chin up and you don't wanna come off as jaded. It's okay if you're a little desperate, if you're also still positive. But if you're a little desperate and you're jaded, that's just gonna be it's a difficult emotion not to share with someone and for the person across the table from you not to recognize and feel. And that's not always a very positive first impression. So those are my 5 ways to find a man when you're absolutely desperate. I hope that they helped. I hope that you can find something in this video that you can try and incorporate or just feel bolstered by some of the choices that you're making, and stay positive, right? Things will turn around. You will meet the right person. It may just not be the right time yet. And so it's important that you put yourself out there. It's important that you treat dating in many ways like a job, because if you don't put yourself out there, how are you gonna meet someone new? But at the same time, it's good for you to enjoy your present, enjoy where you are now, because you're not just whiling away the hours until you meet someone. There's a lot of life to be lived before we meet the person that we marry. So that's my suggestion. Those are my recommendations. Please leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts on today's video, and make sure to subscribe. I would also love if you would hop over to my Substack if you're interested in joining my book club, and I'll see you guys in my next video.